No, use it.
Studio is live, guys. So it's studio. Good morning, Lagos, and thank you for being a part of Smooth Breakfast 981 here on Smooth 98.1. I'm Ayo Mairo Ese.
And I'm Valentine Ohu. Good morning.
Time to go through the national news stories this morning with detailed analysis. And to join us for this, we have Tunde Okufi. Morning, Tunde.
Morning, Ayo Mairo Ese.
Morning.
Morning, Valentine.
Good to have you. Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy New Year. And then all the way from holiday, we haven't heard his voice in a while, Mr. C. Good morning, Mr. C.
Happy New Year, Lagos. Good morning, Naya. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Tunde.
Welcome. All right, Lagos, if you'd like to join the conversation, kindly send your message to WhatsApp 0809-444-0981.
Or Twitter at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is freshlypressed981, or stream it live on YouTube. There's a chat section on the bottom of that page. You can find it there and interact with us during the show.
All right. Okay, Mr. C, I'll start with you. Good to have you. I'm sure your brain is fresh, so let's tap into the freshness of the brain. No gun, but stone attack on Abuja-Kaduna train, Punch newspaper reports. Now, when I read this story, I didn't know what to make of it, because we have to be, it's like, they say there are two sides to the story. This time there are three sides to the story, perhaps four. The first side is eyewitness report. Second side is the DSP Yakubu Abubakar, who is the police public relations officer from the Kaduna State Police Command. Another side is the Nigerian Railway Corporation, and of course the fourth is the truth. So please take us through this story in the Punch newspaper.
Okay, so for the benefit of our listeners, there was an attack on an Abuja-bound train on Thursday.
Which, sorry, I need to say that it has been debunked. However, from this report, that's why I mentioned the different parts. So there's an alleged attack.
No. Ayo, there was an attack because windows of a particular coach were damaged. That is clear. All sides agree as to the damage. What they do not agree on is the cause of the damage.
Yeah, what damage it?
Yes.
Was it wind? Was it a bird?
So what it is
a rolling stone.
Sorry. You know I'm saying that?
Yeah.
The police command in Kaduna said it was baseless. They contacted the Nigerian Railway Corporation and they hadn't received any reports of that. That's why I had to clarify that.
Yeah.
So based on the police command, they said they hadn't gotten any at the time of filing this report.
No, but the police say they contacted the management of the Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Yeah.
Now the managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation is quoted to have said, "It is not an attack by gunmen. Rather, some boys threw stones and it hit one of the coaches." So it buttresses what I was saying.
True.
One of the coaches was attacked. Now, what is in dispute is what caused the attack. Were they gunshots?
What's the size of the damage, though?
Okay, so from the story, windows attached to coach SP12, one of the coaches attached to the train, was shattered and damaged.
So one window.
No, we don't. Windows, plural. We don't know how many. The report doesn't say how many.
Because
windows.
I'm trying to do like a mental estimation. Please, if you throw a stone at the glass, is it bulletproof? Is it the coaches are there?
No, it's not
No,
bulletproof.
they're not bulletproof.
So it's normal glass. So
Yes.
if you're for a moving train, velocity meeting that kind of impact definitely will give rise to such damage.
Yes.
The glass will break, essentially.
Probably, if it doesn't break, it will crack.
Mm.
But what all sides to this story haven't focused on, which is quite disturbing, is the fact that we already know how unsafe the Abuja-Kaduna highway can be.
Yes.
The train was considered to be a safer alternative. Now we're reading a report that a train on that train route was attacked by whoever. And the police is not addressing that. They choose to dismiss it. And from this report, there's nothing to suggest the police actually inspected that damaged coach.
Okay. So, establishing, if we're going to carry out a simple investigation, I'm just picking our brains with this, like, as we should, even in movies and in real life. If you check the size of the damage, which is why I asked you that question. What was the size of damage? How bad was it? It says glasses shattered. Did they see any bullet holes? Did they see any residue from the stones and the glass?
From this story, Valentine, there's nothing to suggest anyone inspected that coach.
All right. So I guess no assumptions until any further
Yes.
reports.
Yes.
Yeah?
That's
But-
why I said that there are three parts. So we cannot make assumptions until the police themselves come out to say that we've carried out investigation, this was what happened, and this was because the Punch newspaper in this case were the ones who are actually asking questions. They're the ones who asked the police the question, contacted the railway corporation, and also got reports from eyewitnesses.
Prince sent in a message on WhatsApp. He said, from the video on the internet, it's only one window that was damaged. Thank you, Prince.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Prince. But like again, this goes back to reporting, and thanks to newspaper outlets like the Punch newspaper, who would go beyond and beyond the call of duty to ensure that they find out the facts. I believe that we'll still have updates on this particular story because it happened yesterday at 10 a.m. and the authorities are not yet coming out with a statement. We look forward to getting a formal statement from the
But even
police.
leading from what Mr. C said, his remark about the routes, I think it raised so much concern and got so blown out of proportion because of the routes
Yes.
and how dangerous it might be.
And the fact that the train has now become the reliable source of transportation,
Yes.
following the fact that people don't want to drive that route. But we'll keep updated on this one. Tunde, let me come to you for the next story from the Daily, from Premium Times. Ondo government, again on security, condemns mass movement of foreigners in rural community. The Ondo state government has said that over 200 herdsmen who arrived in Ajowa Akoko community on Sunday were not Nigerians. That a truck brought them in and they've it looks like you're just okay. Go ahead, please take us through the story.
Yeah, I mean, those are the key highlights, essentially. When in the way the headline was, it was phrased and formed, and it said, okay, mass movement of foreigners. I was like, okay, why are we condemning it? Is this an opportunity for tourism? But I realized I realized it's not the kind of visitors we want.
No, not the tourists we need.
Yeah, not tourists we need. And the borders are closed, by the way.
That's what.
Right. By the way. So how did a truckload, and they came in trucks, they didn't just stroll across the border. So one would assume that they went through, checks. I mean, I don't. We haven't prevented the movement of people, so let's say they're all documented. But I mean, they're herdsmen, so they're likely undocumented. So the ease through which they've gone through are supposedly, the extra security at the borders because they're closed, is interesting. Then they also say that they paid to come and graze in these spaces. So it's then therefore also a question for the community as well. Is it possible that some people have received emoluments for having these people come in? It still speaks to all of this speaks to the fact that we don't have at a number of layers. One, internally we don't have a solution for cattle rearing, grazing, the ranching and or everything that we've spoken about. One, internally, and then it's not just a Nigerian problem, it's a resource problem that's happening across the region. These guys have indeed come from outside the country, and they mostly do have, and our own guys too, our own Nigerian herdsmen also stroll across to other parts of this. So it's not just surprising. In some newspaper in Cameroon or in Benin, there is this exact mirror headline saying, a community of foreigners have arrived from Nigeria to come and graze in there. That's the nature of what it is. They're nomads, they move about. We need to look for, maybe with AFTA and what we're trying to do with the ECO and increased integration across the region. These are some of the things that will be addressed and looked at because we do need a solution. It's not just a Nigerian problem; it's regional. It's a resource problem. Growing populations are putting more pressure on the resource that we have, and there are fewer places. As development, as more communities grow out, there's fewer places for us to graze our cattle, and we need to modernize it. To be honest, we can't continue doing it at a subsistence level.
Goes back to
goes
back to ranching, which a number of people kicked against because of distrust as to the motive of the government. But like you mentioned, we cannot. We can't continue this way.
And it's happening now, especially because of the weather change.
Of it also.
Getting drier and drier. So they're looking for new grazing.
Where's lush and Ondo is in the south.
Right.
All right, thank you very much. We move on to our next one from the Guardian newspaper, Mrs. C. It's an interesting morning. So Guardian reports that the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami SAN, has said that not all court orders need immediate compliance. When you read this headline, your initial reaction is shock. Like, this statement is quite funny coming from the AGF. But if you read the details of the story, he explains the reason for his statement. Can you please take us through this story and explanation so that people are not confused, or the headline is, it doesn't become sensational? Why did he make that statement that not all court orders need immediate compliance?
Okay, so the AGF was speaking on a live program, and he made this statement that not all court orders need immediate compliance. And the point he was making was, if an order is made that you do not like, you can appeal that order and ask for a stay of execution pending the appeal, the determination of the appeal. Now, and this was with specific regard to the cases of Sambo Dasuki and Omoyele Sowore. And he was trying to justify the federal government
disobeying or
not releasing the two gentlemen in spite of the several court orders that had been made. Now, respectfully, I disagree with the AGF, and this is my point. A court order, no matter how badly made or arrived at, is valid until it's set aside. Now, you are the chief law officer of an administration that has promised to uphold the rule of law and obey court orders. Now, what do you lose in obeying the court order and then ensuring that your appeal is heard timeously? And if the order is set aside, you then rearrest the person or take him back into custody. When he makes statements like this, the foreign community is watching, the foreign community is listening. Not all court orders need immediate compliance. What does that mean?
And we say we're open for business.
Foreign investors are not coming here on the back of this because they're going to think, and rightly so, that this is the chief law officer of the country saying this. He's expressing the view of the federal government. And since he made the statement, there's been no response from the presidency. So it is safe to presume at this point they're satisfied with what he said.
All right, thank you very much for that. This goes back to what was being debated on the floor of the House about separating the functions of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, because the Attorney General of the Federation, would support, well, not support, but stand for the government.
He's a lawyer, so it's a dual role. There's one where you're the lawyer for the administration,
and you're also upholding.
You oversee the judiciary. It's a conflict of interest.
Okay, but I must point this out. Every lawyer, when being called to the bar, takes an oath to uphold the law and constitution.
The doctors also take their Hippocratic.
So your loyalty should first be to the law and the constitution, irrespective of who appointed you.
Mr. C, you're absolutely right. But in a society, it's a reflection on wider society. Look at where we are, right? So it's a reflection of society.
We don't have institutions. If we had institutions in this country, he would not have the opportunity to make a statement like this.
From even if where you can say, this is to a degree maybe technically correct. The way he said, not all court orders are to be
immediately
complied to. Do all things need to be said? Also, there's a measure of common sense. So for him to say it is, he doesn't want to be ambiguous about the thoughts and the position and the minds of this government.
All right, thank you very much. We have Oshiohmole reacting to the earlier story, saying that when issues like this arise, the police force is expected to quickly get into action, investigate, and get us concise reports to avoid unnecessary exaggeration of the incident. That's a Kaduna Abuja rail incident.
Concise is the problem.
Oyewole from Ikoyi says, I thought the report says truckload against cattle rearers. If it's the former, then it's been like this in Lagos regularly. We're having northerners and foreigners moving on droves into Lagos. I saw a woman with 2 babies at Jakande filling station on that cold morning at 2 a.m. Where's she from?
The difference is that they're Nigerian.
They specifically mentioned. They specifically mentioned at the foreigners.
All right, Bingo says, my concern is the claim made by the herders that they paid to be allowed to come in and graze. Who were the elders in that Ondo community that collected money from them? We can make noise about the so-called invasion of herders to the south. If there are elders in the community who collect money from herders to migrate and graze, then the herders, have the right to complain and even sue. And this one from Yinka.
When I told you our AGF acts like he didn't attend law school, well, I think I'm just yabbing him. In this administration, we have a professor of law as vice president, and another SAN called Keyamo, who suddenly forgot all they were taught in school. Can't someone advise Malami, please?
Pays the piper dictates.
It's you. All right, let's touch on very quickly on this story because we talked about this a number of times this week, but because there are different angles that spring up each day. Daily Times, PDP behind third term agenda, Oshiohmole alleges. Please, Tunde, take us to the story.
Okay, so this seems it's another Nigerian story. It's one of those themes that happens within our politics that Buhari is the only president since since the last one to attempt a third term, supposedly, allegedly attempt third term. He's the only one seeing a second term, and therefore, Yaradua didn't see out his full term. JJ completed it and then did 4 of his own, but didn't get a second term. So it seems like one of those things that will remain a part of our politics because of the levels of distrust, naturally. Once someone has done 2 terms, he will be looking for ways, means, and mechanisms to stay in power or perpetuate his stay indefinitely. And this is essentially both sides, and it has been rumbling on, for the longest time. Different, lawmakers and different, people with political voices. Sort of putting it out there that there won't be such a bad idea, and you begin to wonder where is this coming from, who is sponsoring these statements and these views, right?
Yes, in this case, the APC leader chair has accused the PDP.
Say,
What's the gain for the PDP to sponsor this kind of propaganda?
There are many things that you can look at. You can say maybe to make him look portray the administration of the president in the bad light. That's one view. The other view is to say, put it out there to make sure that it's not something that is attempted. Like they're making noise about it now, so it doesn't surprise anyone. But we're just trading barbs back and forth. The truth is, it's worrying for me that we have a system in our politics that anybody even begins to suggest the idea, and a lot of a number of people have suggested the idea of a third term, and it's a reflection, honestly, of where we are. Oshiohmole speaking, saying that, look, in the president's address, he said, I'm not interested in a third term. The opposition's position is, for you to even say I'm not interested in a third term, where is that coming from?
All right, thank you.
Very interesting. Mr. C, welcome back. So let me take you back to this story from New Telegraph. The report has a headline: $1.1 billion oil deal. Adoke to spend 14 more days in EFCC's custody. So they got an extension of 14 more days to hold him by the court, granted to them yesterday, because the EFCC is seeking, or rather, days ago, EFCC is seeking to detain the former Attorney General on charges of the sham oil deal that happened. First of all, just a bit of history. That well was sold during the Jonathan administration to his company, and then Obasanjo revoked that deal. Obasanjo initially had given it to Shell, and then that was taken back. But take us through this story, just a bit of a background.
Okay, quick recap. OPL 245 was initially awarded to Malibu Oil and Gas by the late Sani Abacha's administration. Now, the government of Olusegun Obasanjo revoked OPL 245, the award to Malibu, and re-awarded it to Shell. Malibu naturally went to court. Sometime in 2006, Malibu got a court judgment, which reinstated the previous award made by the Abacha administration.
I'm sorry, it was Abacha I was referring to.
Now, under the Jonathan administration, a settlement and resolution process was reached, which the EFCC now alleges was fraudulent, and Shell paid the sum of 1.1 billion to Malibu Oil and Gas to get back to retrieve OPL 245. OPL, by the way, is all prospecting license. Now, Adoke, who was the Attorney General of the Federation at the point in time, is being accused of an abuse of office and money laundering in respect of the said transaction. Now, for the past 4 years, he had been in the United Arab Emirates, and the EFCC had repeatedly said that he had sufficient evidence to arraign him and that he should present himself for arraignment. On the 19th of Adoke returns to the country, and he's taken immediately into EFCC custody. From the 19th of December to the 31st of December is 12 days. Just yesterday, which was the 2nd, EFCC obtains a court order granting it 14 more days to prepare to arraign him. What does that mean? So in the intervening period, when you said you were ready to prosecute him, were you not ready? And in civilized countries, you get all your information ready before you take the decision to prosecute. Now, it goes back, it's been a steady and recurrent practice of the law enforcement agencies here to first arrest you, then now proceed to do the investigation.
There has to be a lacuna in the middle of all this that we can probably identify in the near future and say this is the reason why there's such delay. Could it be the way they process data or collect data in the first place? Or could it be, I mean, what do you think? What could be the closest thing that you would suspect?
Okay, I've had the opportunity of seeing these guys up close when they're investigating. And what it is you're accused of an offense. They ignore the constitutional presumption of silence and insist you answer all the questions they prepared for you.
Without presenting a lawyer,
without representation of
if your lawyer is there, they tell the lawyer to keep quiet and that you're the one to answer the questions. And if your lawyer makes it force, it's time to step outside.
If that happens to you, you have a right to sue.
Well, so Val, you have a right to sue, but then you need to balance the interests of your client.
What does that mean?
Okay, good. So right now, what the EFCC have a number of magistrates who have prepared bail remand orders.
Yes.
So all they go to do is they search your name, the magistrate signs, and you stay, and it's legal.
Yeah.
So you think about it. Your client has a family. Do you go and start fighting constitutional issues, and then he's in detention? You don't know when he's coming out.
Oh, by the way, Mr. C is a lawyer, so he knows what he's saying. Very interesting scenario. It's just very interesting and mind-boggling at the same time.
Niyi Lomo on WhatsApp says Nigerians must demand the removal of the Attorney General for his statement. President Buhari started this third-term speculation when he started talking about reducing poverty in 10 years, despite knowing that he has only 4 years to go. I think you can make long-term plans.
Government should be a continuum, which is the problem we have, and it's regardless of whether it's your party in power or not, you can make plans.
Yes.
Ayokunle then says Adoke was repatriated by Interpol and not that he returned to the country. And then Benga Komi says, even though the president says he's not interested in a third term, we know how these things go in Nigeria.
To correct the previous message, sorry, Adoke actually returned.
He returned.
He was on his way back, yeah.
Thank you very much. The third termers are just testing the waters.
Next story, reduce lawmakers by 2/3. Sounds like a lofty suggestion, but it's coming from one of the representatives. Premium Times reports that a Nigerian lawmaker, his name, Bamidele Salam, has called for a massive cut in the cost of running the Nigerian government. A few recommendations he made, I'll just highlight two. He said, one, senators should be reduced to 1 per state, and the size of the House of Representatives member cut to 2/3. Your thoughts on this, please, Mr. C?
I salute Mr. Bamidele Salam for having the uncommon courage to make this proposal while he's in the House.
Yeah. Yes. And honesty.
A lot of Nigerians will agree that the current National Assembly, upper and lower, is bloated. A lot of us do not truly understand what the majority of them are actually supposedly doing. And then the monies voted to run that select group of individuals. You have 360 plus 109. Altogether, that's 469 Nigerians.
Yes.
And the monies voted to look after 469 people for 4 years. If half of that sum was moved to tackle some of the pressing areas we need to sort out.
And it's in billions.
Yes. Okay, let me give you a quick example. 37 billion naira was just voted to renovate the National Assembly. Believe it or not, a similar sum was voted in 2015 or 2016 for the same renovation.
We believe, because one of the questions we've been asking since is, so has anybody asked, in the midst of this conversation, has anybody stopped to ask how much is spent every year for renovation
and maintenance? And we supposedly have a revenue problem.
Now, in the midst of our current economic crisis, you have 10 House of Reps members per state.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Mm.
So I support this. And he also said something you didn't catch, Val. The Senate should be part-time.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I mentioned. I said I was going to say
100%.
2
Yeah.
out of many.
Yeah, so the Senate should be, look, in fact, for now, I think the National Assembly should be
Should be
part-time.
part-time.
Let's
Should be
elaborate
part-time.
that part-time part. He said, "Oh, the part-time should be just they should come on request when they have to approve loans,
Yes,
emergency
yes,
powers,
yes.
confirm appointments."
Yeah.
Okay, so now that casts a big question on what the functions of the senators or House of Reps members are. What do they do?
Yes. To me, you need to tailor beyond or cut your coat according to your cloth.
Yeah.
You need local solutions for local problems. We say we have a revenue problem. We say we're a poor nation. Let's forget that there's resource and there's money. But in the scheme of things, we don't have the money and the funds for the development we need. We need to show that from the very top and pick solutions that work. It's not. There are many nations that do this. If you don't have the money, you can't go around asking for the loans that we're asking for the aid that we're asking for when we're living lavish
Yeah.
and
Yesterday,
wastefully.
we just spoke. We touched on a story where we mentioned a directorate or a company.
Yes, Nigerian
Nigecomsat.
Nigerian
Nigerian internet
Yeah.
company, right? This guy, they've been in operation for many years. A particular year, their budget for this year is just in excess of 7 million.
Billion. We don't
So,
deal in millions.
Yeah. So the expenditure comes to about a number of billions, and then income will be just a paltry million.
Mhm.
And somebody sent in a message saying the money
What's
they
the
collect
point?
from Sakatulu
Sakatulu
is
alone.
about 36 million a
Yes.
month.
Yeah.
So how do you
How do you explain that?
how is there not
Yeah.
a probe in that kind of
Yeah.
institution? So why I'm saying this is, if Nigeria is treated, a country is treated as a business, if one sub-unit of your business, call it the
Should,
state,
exactly.
is bleeding you dry, or any sector of the
Tough.
government, you should at least try to cut things down.
Absolutely.
Just like you said.
In any business, if revenue doesn't come, what do? You cut costs.
Yes.
Oh, if revenue is down, we're increasing costs.
Just to support this, when we reduce the size of the National Assembly, the number of aides will equally drop. Just the other
Yes.
day, some guy in the Ondo State House of Assembly appointed 228 for what?
And the president is cutting AIDS. Anyway, space priorities. New Telegraph has this report. Please investigate or inaugurate rather vigilante group in Delta community. Please take us through this story, Tunde, especially highlighting what their core functions will be.
All right, sure. So, it's typical for us to be cynical about anything that has to do with the Nigerian police force. But I actually think this one is it's a good one in a sense, because you can view it as community policing, or you can view it as working more closely with the community to police it. And we all know, studies, research has shown that policing needs to be local for it to be effective, because within the community you know who the troublemakers are, you understand the social and context behind the people that you're supposed to be keeping safe. And besides, we don't even have enough policemen generally to cover, by international standards, to cover areas properly. So initiatives like this are useful, especially if it's within an area where there's a noticed or marked spike in insecurity and crime. So what they will be doing especially will be aiding and working with the policemen to help combat things, general insecurity and things like burglary, theft, robbery, rape, and cultism. Cultism is for some reason, surprisingly, it's a huge menace within the nation and within the populace. So I believe this is good. Especially, I do hope that it's not just one of those things where we say we inaugurate people, and in the end, all we do is that we just empower a bunch of local thugs
That's a fear.
to perpetuate the ills that the police can allegedly cannot commit themselves. But if this is paired with proper training, whatever level of training that the police have, and they're giving basic things around procedure and what they should do and what they can't do, then this can be useful.
What proper training does the police have?
Yeah, that's why I said it very carefully. But whatever training the police has, if they can extend it to them and say things around this is the proper procedures, then.
And I think it should have a bounce back effect on the police itself. If they're inaugurating a sub-unit of them, to carry out their functions in the community level, I think that should mirror what the discrepancies are in terms of training.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. I'll take just one or two comments before we go. Ismail Haruna on YouTube says Senate is already acting like part-time. Imagine they're earning billions of naira and had to resume by last week in January. When me, that I'm earning a small thousand naira, had already resumed or we've already resumed.
I mean, only public holidays, man. We didn't close.
All right, thank you so much for your comments, Lagos. Thank you. Unfortunately, we cannot go through all of them, but we do take recognition of them. Don't forget, conversation continues online, so please go on to Twitter at smooth981fm using the hashtag freshlypressed981. Follow our analysts as well at Big Hopes for Tunde Okufi and at the Mr. C. Come up with a new upgraded Twitter handle. Next up, we have Locker Room 981 with Tega, where we discuss sports. Stay tuned.
You've reduced the number of C's now, Abby. It used to be too many C's before.
Yeah, it's just one C now.
It's one C.
1 C, 3 E's, Abby.
Oh, that.